Mega churches. Now, you might not know what a megachurch is, but by the sound and the name, you can probably guess that a megachurch is basically a church, but mega, huge, big, gigantic, enormous, colossal, immense, all these things. It's just basically a giant church. And yeah. And I'll give you some examples of how big some of these mega churches are. Yeah. Pretty fucking big, right? It honestly doesn't even look like a church. It really doesn't. It honestly, it reminds me, and it looks like, a sporting event at a big stadium or a gigantic concert venue or a gigantic theater. Yeah. It doesn't look like a church at all. And it honestly probably feels that way as well. It probably feels like attending a big show or attending a sporting event at a giant stadium or attending a giant concert venue or attending a play at a big, gigantic theater. It probably feels that way. No doubt. And yeah, it's just ridiculous. Church shouldn't be like that. Church shouldn't feel like that. And this is coming from a non-religious person. So, yeah, it shouldn't be like that, and it shouldn't feel like that. Now, don't get me wrong. Some churches, it's fine and makes sense how some churches are on the bigger side, especially with the amount of people that attend that specific church. It would make sense that some churches need to be a little bit big. But these mega churches, their size is just ridiculous. It's too big. It's too ginormous. It's too huge. It's pretty much overindulgent how big these things are. How big these mega churches are. And speaking of overindulgent, can you imagine? Can you imagine how expensive it was to make and build some of these mega churches? Like, for real. Can you imagine how expensive it all had to be? Like, it's ridiculous. It just is. And, yeah. And you may be asking or wondering, how do I know? How do I know what being at a mega church feels like? How do I know how expensive everything is? How do I know all this about mega churches? How do I know? Well, honestly, by, Googling, and also, I've been to a mega church before. Yeah. Granted, it wasn't as big as the ones I showed you, but yeah, I've been to a mega church before. It was huge. Again, it was too big. And yeah. And let's just say it wasn't a pleasant experience. It really wasn't. It honestly felt like a show. It felt like I was watching some kind of show, like a concert or a sporting event or a play or whatever. That's what it felt like. It didn't feel like I was actually at a church. And another thing, how big it actually was honestly made me feel really tiny and insignificant. Because it was so goddamn big, because the building, the mega church I was in was so fucking huge, I felt small. I felt insignificant compared to everything else. I'm like, yeah. And then maybe that's just what some churches do, and maybe that's just what mega churches do in general as well. I don't know. But, yeah. It just wasn't a good or a pleasant experience. But, yeah. Mega churches. You don't need to be so goddamn big. Please, if you're a church, do not turn into a mega church. Do not make your church any fucking gigantic bigger, because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't add to the experience of going to church. No, it honestly, it just diminishes the experience going to a church. So yeah, regular churches, regular sized churches, do not become mega churches. Just don't. Stick to what you know. Stick to being a regular, moderately normal sized church. And yeah. And mega churches, really, honestly, I wish they didn't exist. But sadly, they do.